The sound behind the door studio lights had dimmed, leaving only a quiet flicker from the exit sign at the far end of the hallway. The day had been long, endless takes, the kind that drained even the strongest actors. And today, it wasn't. Just the cameras that were too harsh. It was everything else. Anna stood behind the closed dressing room door, her back pressed gently against the cool wood. Her hands trembled, her breath caught somewhere between her chest and throat. No one had seen her slip away, or maybe they had, but no one said anything. Sometimes people don't ask questions when someone walks away. They assume you're just tired, just needing a break. But this wasn't that. She gripped the edge of the counter, staring at her reflection in the mirror. The makeup couldn't hide the exhaustion beneath her eyes, or the fear, or the pressure building behind her ribs like an untamed storm. Something had shifted that week. The director had started being colder. People whispered when she walked by. The smallest stumbles on set became bigger in her head, louder in her memory. She wasn't just doubting herself, she was unraveling. Slowly, silently. A gentle knock sounded at the door. Anna didn't move. She hoped whoever it was would go away, give her space. But the knock came again, softer this time, respectful, patient Anna. The voice was quiet, caring. It was Keanu. She closed her eyes. Of all people, she hadn't expected him. He was always kind, always respectful, but also private. He kept to himself. He never pushed. But right now, his voice wasn't just words. Was safety? "I'm okay," she called out, though it didn't sound convincing even to herself. There was a pause, a silence thick with something unspoken. Then she heard the softest sentence. "Can I just sit outside the door?" Anna blinked. She wasn't sure she heard right. "You don't have to talk," he continued. "I'll just be here. That's all." And then there was nothing. No movement. No pressure. Just the sound of someone settling down outside the door, like a quiet promise. Minutes passed, maybe more. The silence started to feel different, less heavy, less lonely. Anna's breathing slowed. Her fingers stopped shaking. She looked back at her reflection, and for the first time that day, she didn't feel like it was a stranger staring back at her. Finally, she opened the door. Keanu looked up. He didn't say anything, just gave a small nod, like he already understood. Everything without asking a single question. "How did you know?" she whispered. He gave a soft shrug, just a feeling. She stepped outside. The hallway was still quiet. The world hadn't changed, but something inside her had. "I don't know what's wrong with me," she said suddenly. Her voice cracked. Keanu stood, slow and steady. "Nothing's wrong with you," he replied gently. Anna looked at him, searching his face for doubt. "There was none. You've been giving everything," he continued. "Every scene, every moment. You carry so much. Anna, it's okay to feel overwhelmed." Tears gathered in her eyes before she could stop them. She turned away quickly, but Keanu didn't move. "I'm scared," she finally admitted. "I feel like I'm messing it all up." Keanu stepped closer. Not too close, just enough for her to feel his presence. And then he said, just 2 words, "You're enough." Anna froze. Those words so simple, so quiet, they landed deeper than any applause or compliment ever had. Not beautiful, not talented, not brave. Just enough. Her shoulders shook as she tried to hold back the sob rising in her throat. But it was too late. Her tears spilled. Keanu didn't try to stop her. He didn't offer tissues or empty words, just stood beside her. Sometimes kindness doesn't need volume. Sometimes it just needs timing and honesty. That night, Anna didn't go back to her room alone. Keanu walked beside her, their steps silent but in rhythm. When she finally lay down, the words stayed with her, echoing like a quiet song that never fades. "You're enough." And somehow, for the first time in weeks, she believed it. The truth behind the Smilith morning came. Something had shifted. Anna stood outside her trailer, the sunlight soft against her face. Usual noise of crew members moving lights and calling directions filled the air. People laughed. coffee. Cups clinked. It looked like a normal day. But inside her, something wasn't the same. She took a slow breath and walked toward Set. Eyes followed her like they always did. Before, it used to make her nervous. Now she felt still. Not calm exactly, but rooted. Like she wasn't floating through her own life anymore. Keanu was already there, stood off to the side, hands in his pockets, listening to a crew member. Explained something about lighting. When he saw Anna, he gave her a small nod. Not a performance, not a forced smile. Just something real, and that was enough. Anna returned the nod. For the first time in a while, it didn't feel like she was pretending to be okay. She wasn't fully okay yet, but something was healing as they started rehearsing the scene. The director's voice cut through the air. Anna, can we do that one more time? With a little more ... edge? You're still holding back? Anna flinched. Not because the request was harsh, but because it felt like another reminder that she was still not measuring up. She nodded and tried again. Cut again. Cut again. Cut again. The third take didn't go better. By the fifth, Anna felt the cracks returning. She could feel her fingers twitching, her throat tightening, and that's when Keanu stepped in. Can we take 5? He asked calmly. The director looked annoyed, but Keanu kept his voice steady. I think we're missing something in the rhythm. The crew backed off. Some looked frustrated, but no one challenged him. Keanu had that kind of quiet influence. Not because he demanded it, but because he earned it. He walked over to Anna, gently placing a water bottle in her hand. Want to take a walk, he asked. She nodded. Yes. They stepped away from the set behind one of the old props from a past shoot. It was quiet there, a pocket of calm. You're doing great, he said softly. Anna shook her head. I'm not. I keep missing it. They want something I don't know how to give. Keanu leaned against the prop, watching her. What do you think they want? Emotion. Rawness. But every time I try, it feels fake. Like I'm trying too hard. He nodded slowly. You're not failing. You're just trying to be what they expect, not what you feel. Anna looked at him. What if what I feel isn't enough? Keanu smiled gently. What if it's exactly what they need, but they just don't see it yet? Those words sat. In the air, quiet but firm. Anna leaned her head back and closed her eyes. I've spent so long trying to prove I belong here, she whispered, even when I smile on red carpets or joke with fans. That part of me is always scared they'll find out I'm just pretending. Keanu stayed silent, letting her speak. I love acting, she said. But sometimes I feel like I have to wear 10 different masks. One for the audience, one for the press, one for the crew. And none of them are really me. He nodded slowly. It's hard to carry all that, but maybe you don't need all those masks. Maybe just showing up as yourself is the strongest thing. You can do. Anna opened her eyes. You make it sound easy. Keanu smiled. It's not, but it gets easier when you're not alone. They stood there in the quiet for a moment, not as stars, not as characters, but just two people trying to hold on to what was real in a world built on fiction. You know, Keanu added, when I was younger, I used to think success would fix everything. The doubts, the fears, the emptiness. But it didn't. It just gave me a better view of how many others were feeling the same way. Anna looked at him, surprised. You've felt that too? More times than I can count, he said with a soft laugh. But I learned something. When you stop fighting those feelings and start listening to them, they guide you. She was quiet. So what do I do now? She asked. Keanu looked at her with quiet certainty. You trust that the person you are is already enough? Those words again, they didn't feel like comfort. They felt like truth. Anna smiled. It's time, not for anyone watching, not for a camera. Just for herself? They walked back to set together. The scene didn't go perfectly that day, but the next one was better. The one after that, even stronger. Because something real had shifted inside her, and every time she started to doubt. Again. She remembered Keanu's voice. You're enough. And maybe, just maybe, that was the beginning of everything she needed. The storm on Stagina stood still in the middle of the soundstage. The camera wasn't rolling yet. But everyone was watching her. This was the scene, the one people had been talking about for weeks. the emotional climax. The scene where her character breaks, falls to her knees, and begs for forgiveness. It was raw. It was heavy. It was personal. The kind of scene that could change everything, ruin everything. The director called out cues. Camera operators made final checks. Wardrobe adjusted a loose thread on her sleeve. But Anna barely noticed. Her heart pounded too loudly. Her chest felt tight again. She'd been doing better the last few days, thanks to Keanu. But this moment was different. The fear came back fast. Too fast. What if I can't do it? What if I mess up again? She looked across the set. Keanu was there, seated in the shadows, just watching. He wasn't in this scene. He didn't have to be there. But he'd stayed anyway. For her, their eyes met. He gave a small nod. That was all. And yet it helped. Anna took her position. Action. The lights hit her face like heat. The world shrunk. Her co-star stepped forward, delivering the harsh lines that were meant to tear her character apart. I knew she was supposed to break, but nothing came. Not the tears. Not the crack in her voice. Not the raw emotion the director wanted. Cut, someone said. Let's reset. Anna stared at the floor, frozen. Shame crawled up her spine. Again and again. Each take worse than the last. On the fourth try, her voice cracked mid-sentence and she dropped her line. The room went quiet, Anna, the director said, clearly frustrated. You need to feel it, not think it. She nodded, barely hearing the words, but it wasn't that she wasn't feeling it. It was that she was feeling too much. Her past. Her doubts. All the nights she cried in her hotel room after reading reviews online. The people who told her she was just a pretty face. The ones who said she'd never last. Never lead. Never matter. All of that storm lived just beneath her skin. Pressing up, threatening to break through, but she was too scared to let it out. What if they see too much? What if they don't like the real me? She stepped off the set, walked quickly. Eyes blurred. She found an empty corridor and leaned against the wall, heart pounding. She wanted to scream, cry, disappear, and then she heard footsteps. Anna Keanu's voice was soft, not demanding, just present. Please don't. She said, not looking up. I can't do this right now. He didn't leave. He didn't speak right away either, after a moment. She heard him slide down to sit beside her. You don't have to be perfect, he said gently. You just have to be honest. Anna turned her head. But what if my honesty isn't enough? For them? He looked at her, calm and kind. Then they're not ready for what's real. She swallowed hard. I'm scared, Keanu. Not just of this scene, of all of it. What if I'm not who people think I am? That's okay, he said. You don't have to be. I don't want to disappoint everyone. What if the only person you need to stop disappointing is yourself? Those words hit her like a quiet lightning bolt. She wiped her face. I'm tired of being scared all the time. Keanu leaned his head back against the wall. I know the feeling. For a long time, I thought fear meant I wasn't strong enough. But I was wrong. What does it mean then? He looked up at the ceiling. It means you care. Anna took a deep breath. They sat there in silence for a few minutes. The kind of silence that doesn't feel empty but full. Want to try again? He asked gently. She hesitated. I'll be there, he added. Just off camera. Not acting, not judging, just listening. She nodded slowly. Okay. Back on set, the lights were still harsh, the air still thick. But this time, Anna didn't try to fight it. She didn't push away the fear. She let it live in her voice. And when the scene began, she broke not because she forced it, but because it was real. Tears came not as a performance, but as a release. Her co-star froze for a moment. Stunned by the intensity, the director didn't say cut right away. The crew didn't move. The entire stage held its breath. And when the scene finally ended, no one said a word, until someone whispered, Wow. Double quotes. Anna wiped her face. Her breathing, shaky. Keanu gave her a small smile from the shadows. Not proud, Not amazed, just grateful, because he knew what it cost her to be that honest, and he also knew it was worth it. The echo of silence said 2 days after the scene, everything felt different. The footage had been reviewed. The director had called it pure gold. Producers were smiling again. Assistants were whispering about awards. Suddenly the pressure that had once crushed Anna now circled her like a spotlight. But it wasn't the praise that shook her. It was the silence that followed. When she lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling of her hotel room, she didn't feel triumphant. She didn't feel proud. She felt hollow. The applause had faded. And in its place was a question she didn't expect. Who am I when no one's watching? The next morning, Keanu found her sitting alone on the edge of the old stage, near the back lot. It was one of the sets they didn't use any more forgotten props, fake buildings, worn-out paint. But to Anna, it felt real. It's more real than anything else in that moment. She didn't look up when she heard his footsteps. "You always find me," she said softly. Keanu sat beside her. "I don't go looking. You just happen to show up in the quiet places." She smiled faintly, eyes still ahead. "They say I was brilliant," she said. "That the scene might be the best work I've ever done." "You were," he said. And it was. Anna took a shaky breath. "Duh. So why do I feel worse now?" Keanu was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Because you gave a piece of your soul, and now you're afraid it'll be taken instead of honored." Anna blinked. "How do you always know exactly what I'm feeling?" "I don't," he said. "I just listen harder when people go quiet." They sat in silence for a while. Wind tugged at the loose edges of the set. Birds chirped somewhere nearby, almost too far away to hear. "I'm not used to feeling this bare," she whispered. "It's like everyone's looking inside me now." Keanu looked at her. "Do you regret letting them see?" Anna shook her head. "No, but I didn't expect it to hurt after." "That's because you were honest," he said. "And honesty always costs something." She turned to him. "How do you handle it?" Keanu gave a half smile. "I didn't. Not for a long time. I used to shut people out, kept everything locked behind my smile. But eventually it got too heavy." "What changed?" He paused, then looked her in the eyes. "Someone told me I was enough." Anna's heart paused. He had never said that part before. She swallowed the lump in her throat. "Who told you?" "A woman I met during one of my lowest times," he said. "She wasn't famous. She wasn't trying to fix me. She just looked at me one day and said those words. And for the first time, I believed them." Anna nodded slowly. "And now you say them to others." Keanu leaned back against the wooden backdrop behind them. "We can only give what we've received." They sat like that for a while too. People. Surrounded by fake buildings, having the most real conversation of their lives. Later that day, Anna walked onto set for a new scene. It wasn't as intense as the last, but the stakes still felt high. She could feel the weight of everyone's expectations. But this time, she didn't carry it alone. As the cameras rolled, she grounded herself. Not in the lines, not in the script. But in truth, her character was supposed to laugh during this scene, a broken, tired laugh after a moment of defeat. Before she might have faked it, but now she didn't. She thought about her own pain. About the nights no one saw. The days she smiled when she wanted to fall apart. From that space, the laugh came. Raw, cracked, real. Everyone on set felt it. It wasn't just acting, it was release. When the director called, "Cut," the room was silent again. Not out of confusion, but out of respect. Anna looked toward the monitors. She saw herself frozen in that one frame. And she saw not a character but a reflection. And for once she didn't flinch. That night she found Keanu again. Same spot. Same old set. This time she brought 2 coffees. He raised an eyebrow. "You remembered my order?" "Well," she smiled, "you always show up when I need you. It's the least I can do." They sat in comfortable silence. "I keep waiting for the fear to go away," Anna admitted. "But maybe it never does." "It doesn't," he said. "But you learn to move with it." She nodded slowly. "Thank you for what?" "Reminding me. I didn't have to be anything more than myself." Keanu looked at her with quiet kindness. "You never did." When the lights turn off, city outside the studio buzzed with celebration. Film blogs were calling it the comeback of the year. Headlines praised Anna's performance. There were rumors of nominations. Press requests poured in. Stylists, agents, and producers all suddenly became louder, more present. But inside, Anna sat quietly in her dressing room, holding a folded note in her hand. It wasn't fancy. No signature. No flourish. Just 2 words written in careful, neat letters. You're enough. She had found it tucked inside her script earlier that morning. No. One needed to tell her who left it. Keanu had always spoken those words gently, never repeating them for attention. And yet, here they were written down like a quiet anchor. She pressed the note to her chest and closed her eyes. That afternoon, the studio arranged a surprise press visit. Photographers, journalists, publicists, they all flooded the back lot. Everyone had to look their best. Act their best. Anna was placed front and center. She wore the dress the team picked, smiled the smile she'd been trained to give, gave answers that were safe, sweet, polished. She laughed at questions that tried to poke into her private life, kept her hands still, stood tall. On the surface, everything was perfect. But inside, it felt like glass again. During one break, as she slipped away to catch her breath, one reporter followed her outside. Anna, the woman said kindly, "Do you have a moment for something more personal?" Anna turned. But something in the woman's eyes didn't feel like a trap. "Sure," Anna whispered. The reporter hesitated, then said, "That scene you did, the one where you break down on the floor, didn't feel like acting. It felt like ... real pain. Was it?" Anna stared at her. For a moment the world seemed to quiet, and then slowly Anna nodded. "Double quotes it was," she said softly. "I wasn't playing someone else that day. I was showing myself." The reporter's eyes softened. "Thank you," she said, "for being brave enough to do that." Anna smiled. A real one. Small, honest. "Thank you for seeing it." After the press left, the studio threw a wrap party. Music played. Lights flashed. Everyone drank and danced and celebrated the finished shoot. Anna stood near the edge of the crowd, holding a glass of water. She smiled when people passed, said thank you when they complimented her. But she stayed quiet. Observing, then she spotted Keanu. He wasn't dancing. He wasn't drinking. He stood near one of the side tables, chatting quietly with one of the sound engineers. When he saw her, he gave a small wave. She walked over. "You always avoid the center of the room," she teased. "Too loud," he smiled. "Yeah." They stood side by side, watching the chaos of joy around them. "Do you ever feel strange?" she asked suddenly. "Like everyone's clapping for something, but they didn't really see you at all?" He nodded. "Every time." Anna took a deep breath. "This week has been ... wild. The praise, the attention. But part of me just wants to go somewhere quiet, somewhere real." "Want to?" She looked at him. "What do you mean?" He held up his keys. "There's a diner I go to, sometimes, open late, no cameras, terrible coffee." She smiled. "Perfect." They left the party without fanfare. No one noticed. The diner was small, tucked between 2 old shops with a faded neon sign and booths that squeaked when you sat down. Took a corner booth, ordered fries and black coffee. No one stared. No one whispered, just 2 people, sitting like regular souls in a quiet place. Anna looked out the window at the streetlights glowing on the sidewalk. "I wish I could bottle this," she said. "This feeling, simple, peaceful, safe." "You can," Keanu said. "Not in your pocket, but in your mind, your body. The more you remember this, the easier it gets to carry it with you even on stage." Anna nodded slowly. "Thank you for being here," she said. "Always." She turned to him, really looked at him. "Why do you do it, Keanu? Why help me like this?" Paused. "Because someone helped me once," he said. "And I promised myself, if I ever saw someone carrying what I used to carry, I wouldn't let them walk alone." Anna felt her throat tighten. "You kept your promise, and you kept standing," he replied. "Even when it hurt." They sat in silence, letting the warmth of the moment settle. Before they left, Anna reached into her bag and took out the small folded note. She slid it across the table to him. "I think this belongs to you." Keanu looked down. "No," he said gently. "It always belonged to you. I just helped you see it." Anna picked it back up, tucked it safely into her jacket pocket. As they walked out into the night, the wind was cold, but the silence was soft. That night, Anna slept deeply. No rehearsed smiles, no tension in her chest, just dreams of open skies and quiet rooms. In the morning, she'd be back in front of cameras, but tonight, she was just herself, and that was enough. The moment she remembered weeks past, the film wrapped, posters went up, the trailers dropped. And everywhere Anna went to airports, interviews, magazines, people looked at her differently. She was no longer the rising actress with something to prove. She was the one who had delivered. Yet, with every headline and compliment, there was a strange pressure tightening in her chest again. Not fear, exactly, doubt. Just a quiet question that kept returning every night when the world fell silent. Was it really me they loved, or just the version of me they saw on screen? On a cold afternoon in December, the studio hosted a special preview screening. An early audience, close friends, industry names, people whose opinions could shape the film's legacy. Anna stood behind the curtain. Watching the rows fill, she could hear the low buzz of voices, laughter, shuffling coats, the clink of glasses, and her heart beat faster. "You okay?" Keanu asked gently from behind her. She nodded, then shook her head. "I don't know. This feels bigger than I expected." "It is big," he said, "but not too big for you." She took a breath, still staring at the audience. "What if they don't feel what I felt?" "They will," he said, "because truth isn't a trick. It speaks without asking." She turned to him, her voice quiet. "And if they don't, then it still matters," Keanu whispered, "because you didn't do this to please them. You did this to be honest. And that's enough." Those two words again, still soft, still powerful, still everything. The lights dimmed. The film began. Anna didn't watch the screen. She'd see. Instead, she watched the audience. She watched them lean forward, saw their eyes widen, their lips tremble. At one point, someone in the second row wiped away tears, and when the scene came, the scene where her character broke on the floor, the theater fell completely still. No whispers, no movement, just breath, just presence. When the final credits rolled, there was a long silence. And then ... applause. Real, slow, rising. Not the kind of applause you hear at premieres. When everyone claps because they're supposed to, this was different. It was grateful, connected. Emotional. Anna sat in the back corner, tears in her eyes. Not because of the praise, but because something had reached them, something true. Afterward, the crowd slowly trickled out. Producers shook hands. Fans asked for photos. But Anna didn't move. She stayed in her chair, hands folded, quiet, until Keanu sat beside her. "How do you feel?" he asked. She thought for a long moment. "I feel seen," he nodded. "You were..." They sat in silence, letting the weight of the moment settle. "I think," she said quietly, "that for the first time, I'm not scared of being myself anymore." Keanu looked at her. "That's the strongest kind of freedom." Anna smiled, her eyes still damp. "You know what's funny?" she said. "For so long I thought acting was about becoming someone else. Now I think it's about becoming more of myself." "Exactly," he said. "And you gave them something real." She reached into her jacket, pulled out the folded note, and held it out. "I've kept this every day since you gave it to me." Looked at the words again, "You're enough," and smiled. "Those aren't mine anymore," he said. "They're yours now. Someday you'll pass them on to someone else." Anna nodded. A month later, she was on another set. A younger actress stood across from her, nervous, hands trembling before her first big scene. Everyone was watching, pressure heavy in the air. Anna recognized the look in her eyes. Fear, doubt, the weight of being seen, so she walked over, and quietly, without making a show of it. Anna leaned in and whispered 2 words into the girl's ear. The girl's eyes widened. Then, filled with tears, she nodded. She breathed, and the scene began. Not perfect, not polished but true. Anna walked off set, heart calm. It wasn't about being the best. It wasn't about fame or headlines. It was about showing up with truth and letting others know they didn't have to hide, because sometimes all it takes is 2 words spoken at the right time, too. Remind someone that they already carry everything they need inside them. You're enough.